Hi guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Thursday, the 25th of March 2021. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to use the Tarot of the Cat People for today's reading. I absolutely love this deck. Let's have a look at what the cards want you to be aware of today. So I'm just going to shuffle them a few times and then ask the cards what energy is coming up and how you can work with that most effectively. So let's see. Queen of Swords, the Three of Swords, and Temperance. Wow, okay. So we've got strong energy, we've got lots of air and water. That's about the way you think and how you feel. Those things are very internal and they have nothing to do with the outside world. So there's a lot of focus on what you're deciding, what you think is right, and what you can kind of heal in the here and now. It's not so much about other people, although the Three of Swords can often be heartbreak caused by another person, but it's really about the inner process of healing from that and working through it. So the Queen of Swords is a court card. She's in charge of the country's thinking. She's the propaganda machine. She says, this is what we value and what we believe, and this is what goes. I have my bodyguard here. If you don't agree, the sword's going to come down. You'll be punished. And if you try and come after me, I've got my protector there. So the Queen of Swords has to deal with a lot of negativity. The Panther is black, so that's absorbed. So she's in charge. She's responsible for making the rules. She's very clear. She's very articulate. She makes good decisions. But also, she's on her own. She's the one who's in charge. She's the boss. So whether someone comes with some sort of request or someone tries to assassinate her or someone wants to give her a hug, ultimately she's going to have to deal with all of that. And she's going to have to make sense of it herself. So there may be a feeling that you're on your own, that you're not being supported, that there are important things going on in your life which you have to decide. No one else helps you. And it may feel a little bit daunting. You may also feel critical. You may feel like you're being scrutinized by other people and like you're in a precarious situation where you have to protect yourself. Ultimately, the card is saying that think with love when you make your decisions and really try and embrace that role that you've got, that you are the leader in your life. You are the boss of your own destiny. Embrace that and really ask yourself, how can I make a decision that has the most loving and positive outcome for myself and even for other people? But it's really important that you provide yourself with some comfort, because the Queen of Swords, even though she's wearing these beautiful pink and purple clothes here, she's not famous for being overly caring and warm. She's much more associated with tough decisions that totally ignore the emotional side of things and a sense of harshness. So use that to your advantage. If you have some tough conversations that you have to have, the Queen of Swords will help you do that. She certainly helps you stand up for yourself. And also, if you want to change things around and say, I don't like this, I find it unacceptable, here's the ultimatum. Either you're going to stay with me and change the behavior, or you can continue what you're doing, but then you're not going to have part of me anymore. And that's a tough thing to say. And I mean, whether an ultimatum is a good thing or a bad thing, I mean, certain people will say you never make an ultimatum to anybody because it's so confrontational. Other people will say sometimes you have to confront people and make an ultimatum, especially if you're fed up and if you've had enough. And if you've been talking till you're blue in the face and nothing has changed, then it is appropriate to say, okay, we've come to the end of the line here. Either I have made the decision, this is where it's at, and either you work with that or not. And there's no personal attack involved. I'm just sharing with you where I'm at and that we're not seeing things eye to eye. So that's an uncomfortable situation, but often an important situation if you want to grow and live your life the way you want to live it rather than being under someone else's thumb. The Three of Swords is loss and heartbreak and betrayal. We've got these two people who are completely at odds with one another. They're back to back. So they're really not seeing things eye to eye. But also, if you look at it a different way, if there was some attackers or some sort of a threat, then they're sitting back to back so that they can support each other, and the swords are extended to take out any kind of enemies. And you could argue that in this deck, even though they're not on the same page, they still have respect for each other and they care enough to ensure that the other person's okay. You know, it's like when you break up with someone who you truly, truly loved and you've been together for 10 years and the relationship comes to an end. But you go your separate ways and afterwards you're the best of friends because the love is still there, but you've realized that you're just not compatible as a team, as a couple, in a marriage. And again, that's very difficult to accept, especially if you don't want to face that truth that your relationship is coming to an end, or that you have made an internal decision, you're just not expressing it yet, and you're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah, it's not a pleasant thing to have to realize, but it's an essential thing, because if you stay in the negative situation, then you can't make space for a positive situation to come in. So basically, with these two cards, what I'm getting is a lot of conflict between you and other people. If you decide to speak your truth, if you decide to stand in your power and say, I am not feeling this, or the decision you've made is wrong and you need to revisit it, or this just isn't acceptable, or it's just not, it just doesn't work. It's just not appropriate in this situation. Then that will cause a split. But ultimately, they're dressed in purple and pink. Spiritually, they realize that differences of opinion and the relationship coming to an end isn't really the end of their connection altogether, because they still have that love. They're still looking out for each other. They've been part of each other's experience, so they honor each other. So the card is saying having a difficult conversation is more effective than brushing it under the rug and just faking it. So if you've been thinking about something like this for a while, for days or weeks or months, this is the perfect opportunity to have that conversation in the most effective way possible. Because sometimes if you say, do you know what, I want a divorce, it can get crazy. I mean, some people react very badly and you can have major arguments or, you know, God forbid, fights, and it can go really wrong. But this is the kind of day where logic is appreciated more than anything else, or it certainly trumps the emotional side of things. So if you do present someone with a fait accompli, in the sense that I've made this decision, this is how I think, this is just what my truth is, I may not like it, but it's just a fact of life, then it's likely that the other person can see your side at least, or can somehow understand what it is you're talking about, because you are coming from a reasonable, rational place, and the emotions aren't going to cloud you or the other person to spin off into something completely other that then becomes a huge emotional, hysterical argument, for example. Finally, temperance is about balance and healing so that you can move on and get to a place of enlightenment. It's about spiritual progress and spiritual development. And you can only detox from something if you face it. If you don't have a problem in your relationship, you can't do anything about it. And what I mean by that is, if you don't have a problem, genuinely don't have a problem in your relationship, then you don't need to do anything about it. But if you do have a problem, but saying something about it is uncomfortable, or you want to put it off, then you can't obviously resolve it because you're not addressing it. And temperance says that when you do address things, even if they do feel uncomfortable, you create that inner balance again. You give yourself the time and the space to heal, and that puts you back on your true path, which is your development and becoming the person you want to be. But you can't develop if you're clinging on to the past or things that do not work for you, that cause you pain and grief and anger and anxiety, resentment, anything like that. That is kind of chronic and you have been thinking about it for a while, it's a good day to have a rational discussion. And then to close the door on it and to heal from it. And what that says is that you really are able to shut the door on something problematic altogether. Because if you leave the door a little bit open, then the healing can't really begin. And you may think that's somewhat contradictory, because I'm saying these two are no longer together, but they still have respect for each other. And that's okay. You can not be in a romantic relationship with someone and still have them in your life, but you can close the chapter on the romance and really begin to heal from it. And for each person, that's going to be different. You know, some people need a little bit of time. Some people never ever want to speak to someone who's broken their heart ever again. Some people want to just make the other person disappear because they're too hurt or angry or in pain. So it's really something that only you can judge for yourself. So whether this is a person or a problem or a business relationship or any kind of interaction you have with something or someone or a place in your life that no longer serves you, you're really able to break up with that thing today in the most positive way possible. Because breakups in themselves don't feel great, but you know, there are levels. I mean, they're the worst, most awful breakups, and then they're very mild, even pleasant breakups. And today it's pleasant and mild and easy to navigate, and you have the opportunity to really close the door and to get back on track and to start the healing. So we can all let go of someone who doesn't treat us right, or an addiction, or a negative way of thinking, or horrible self-belief. You're able to detox that and move on. Amazing. I love this. I really do. It's not the most comfortable of days, but it's certainly a day where we learn skills that are going to serve us for the rest of our lives. 14 and 3 is 17, and 1 is 18. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 is spirituality and completion in numerology. And that makes total sense, because you're completing a cycle. You're closing something once and for all, and you're resolving a problem. So I hope you have a really, really fabulous, productive, and a really productive day. And I also hope that you have a lot of teachable moments here, which really allow you to see something bigger. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to audio reading with me. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share the video online. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.